Hello and welcome to Industrial 5G Uncovered. This is a webinar exploring how we can accelerate 5G adoption and future opportunities for digital transformation in manufacturing logistics. I am Linda Ligio, Senior Innovation Partner at Digital Catapult, and I will be your host for today's event, which brings you an amazing lineup of speakers. Just before we get started, I remind you that this event has been recorded and you will receive the link in a follow-up email. And we invite you to participate by posting your questions in the Q&A box once we have our panels. You can see the Q&A box in the bottom of your screen. So here is a glimpse of what to expect from today's event. Shortly, we will hear from our guest speaker for some introduction remarks, followed by two panel sessions. One focusing on the opportunity that a more open radio access network architecture can provide for industry, and the other one on the next steps that need to be taken to speed up 5G adoption in manufacturing logistics. In between the two panel sessions, we will also make some exciting announcements on events and funding opportunities. For those who don't know us, Digital Catapult is part of a network of world-leading technology and innovation centers established by Innovate UK, and we aim to accelerate industrial adoption of advanced digital technology to drive growth in the UK economy. We do this by working with a wide range of organizations, including startups, scale-ups, but also established businesses, investors, academia and the government. And we do this to discover new ways to solve industry challenges, but also increase productivity and open up new markets. For the past 2 years, we've been working with the UK government's Department for Digital Culture, Media and Sport to coordinate the Industrial 5G Testbeds and Trials programme. We've been following the journey of 8 groundbreaking projects exploring over 30 use cases in manufacturing, logistics and transport. Just to give an example, we've looked at how 5G can enable real-time asset monitoring, but also predictive maintenance, digital twins, and VR-enabled training. The list really goes on. Most of the projects that we're working with are still kind of testing the technology and also capturing the benefits, but we've already started to share some insights in previous webinars. This event is in fact the final of a 4-part series, which has looked at 5G opportunities and learnings from different angles. The first webinar looked at how innovators and startups are leveraging 5G capabilities. We've also heard from some of the early adopters deploying private 5G networks to improve productivity and efficiency. And the more recent webinar explored some of the technical lessons learned from the first wave of deployments. If you missed the series, I would encourage you to catch up on our YouTube channel where you can find the playlist. We'll also post a link in the chat. And also, if you want to learn more about Industrial 5G, we put together a practical digital toolkit, which includes some examples of real-world case studies. There is also a glossary to help you become more familiar with the technology, and you can find a list of organizations, products, and businesses that are making the fast-growing 5G ecosystem. This toolkit will be updated, and also just to let you know, we will soon publish an interview series and summer resources, so do keep an eye on our website. And now it's time to welcome our first speaker. Please welcome Jürgen Meyer, who is a UK industrial lead and chair of the board at DZ. Hello, Jürgen. It's a pleasure to have you today. So
Thank you.
Hand over to you to let you open our event. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Linda. Thank you for that great introduction, and it's really brilliant to be here. Welcome everybody to this very important event about how we're accelerating 5G and broader digital technologies. Now, when I was asked to lead the Made Smarter review about 5 years ago now, many of you will have heard of that. That was the review, a joint government and private sector review, where we were exploring what we needed to do to accelerate the adoption of digital technologies. And we were talking about technologies like artificial intelligence, machine learning, data analytics, digital twinning, augmented reality, all of the great things that you know all about. And 5G is enabling technology to all of those. And it's absolutely clear that 5G, with its 5G factory private networks, they absolutely lead to better connected factories, which ultimately leads to better productivity, machine utilization, and less waste. Very importantly, also within the supply chains of factories and logistics. So really, it is ultimately the enablement of what we've always dreamt about, which is the ultimate Internet of Things, Industry 4.0 connected factory. And we know that 5G offers low latency, which can unlock the potential of great technologies like virtual reality, and it has huge capacity. The experts at Digital Catapult tell me that you can connect up to 1 million devices. And I think most of the factories that we have in the UK, that will be sufficient for. And massive use cases have been developed through the test beds, for example, like the 5G enabled manufacturing program, use cases such as enhancing machine utilization, better energy savings, and test beds have been absolutely key to that. People need to have a place where they can come in a near real life environment and explore. And that is really what this whole program of industrial 5G Uncovered has been all about. And I'm delighted and proud that the Digital Catapult has been able to provide those test beds and this series, of which this is the last one. So this program is coming to an end, but actually it's the beginning. Because this is now the beginning of, from everything that we've learned through this program and from the test beds, is what do we need to do to now move to large scale adoption. And that is very much what your discussion, what the panels following my brief introduction are going to be all about. What is the learning from all of those testbed programs we've been running? What programs do we now need to put in place to help scale? What sorts of strategic partnerships do we need to form? How do we turn this technology into true plug and play, out of the box technology on which it still has some way to go? For that, I think there are great opportunities for local British OEMs to move into the market to provide some of that out of the box technology. And of course, we've still got work to do to make sure we've got the right skills. We've learned that current IT departments need upskilling because it isn't quite as straightforward as an industrial Wi-Fi. And of course, we all understand the importance of security issues. What sorts of joint private sector and government initiatives like Made Smarter do we need to help the industry now accelerate its journey on 5G and broader digital technology adoption? So there is lots to talk about. Thank you everybody for taking part, and all the very best to all of you in your journeys on adopting 5G within your factory and supply chain environments. It really is a massive opportunity for us as an industry to increase our productivity across our industry. And that's a great journey to be on. So thank you very much. And I wish you some brilliant discussions and debates during the rest of this conference. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you very much, Jürgen. Yes, definitely a very exciting time. And without further ado, I would like to now introduce our first panel. And chairing the panel is Paul Seeley, Director of Technology Strategy at Digital Catapult. Paul, will let you introduce the panel. If you can please come on screen.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Can you see me hopefully?
Yes, and I hope
Yes.
yeah, you can see my screen.
Yes.
So I'm gonna let you introduce the panel, just to let you know, everyone, that if you have any question during this session, you can of course post them in the Q&A box, and if time allows, we will pick some of them on the discussion. So over to you, Paul.
Good morning, everyone. So I'm really pleased to be chairing this panel. We've got some great speakers, and also, as well as being great speakers individually, they're also really good in terms of giving a really distinct and different perspectives on this. So if I can ask Abel, Mick, Steph, and Ray to join. So in terms of this panel, so overall, as Linda said, this is about 5G in industrial settings, but I personally have been doing quite a bit of work in OpenRAN. And so this is a discussion around how OpenRAN can provide new opportunities in an industrial setting. And as a starter, what I'd quite like to do is for each of the speakers, if you can introduce yourselves and give you all of you have worked on some of these projects that we've been doing, and if you can do introduce yourself and give some personal perspectives on the experience that you've learned through working on the 5G deployments. So if I can start with I'll just go randomly round. So if I can start with Ray first.
Hi there, good morning. So my name is Ray.
Good morning.
I'm the project lead for 5G AMC Squared, which is one of the projects within the 5G testbed and trials program. We are a consortium made up of BAM Nuttall as the lead partner, which is a civil engineering and construction company. So we've deployed 2 private 5G networks, one on the live construction sites in the most remotest of places in the Shetland. And it has been a very interesting experience so far. Some of the challenges that we've encountered are purely due to the fact that we are early adopters, should I say, because the ecosystem is quite clearly at a very low level of maturity. And we have experienced lots of challenges with getting compatible devices because the technology is still so new. And no doubt I will go into a bit more of the details of our projects later on during this session. But it has definitely been a worthwhile experience because we're at the point where we're getting to start to see some of the benefits of being part of this program, including diversifying the ecosystem, as well as ensuring, or shall I say, because we're in a time-limited project, forcing the technology to mature a bit faster with the various different partners that are required for an OpenRAN deployment. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you. As you say, I'll pick up some of those points later on. But if you can now go into Mick, if you can introduce yourself and
good morning.
A few thoughts.
Can you hear me okay?
Great. Yeah, can hear you. Thank
Great.
you.
So hi everyone, I'm Mick Goulding. I look after the commercial side of things here at Cellnex UK. I suppose Cellnex are best known as a towerco, a telecom infrastructure company. And therefore, why are we so involved with innovation projects like the 5G trials and testbeds? It's very much around driving new benefit, new value out of existing infrastructure, but also then with the use cases and valued benefits that come from our enterprise customers, who then start to see the true realization from that. And that's really the sort of the journey from a relatively passive infrastructure in the form of a tower into something a lot more active in that network deployment cycle in the form of a private network. And Cellnex as an organization now offers private networks as one of its core businesses, one of its core solution offerings. And as we develop, and we'll go into this in more detail, the advent of ORAN that obviously can then push further forward some of our both public and private network offerings is a key benefit when we come to sustainability, environmental concerns, and other elements actually of the technology as well. And so therefore, from our point of view, our project, 5G Logistics, which is in combination with WECA, the West of England Combined Authority, with Bristol Port, and also with Gravity as host locations, is very much around how we can develop and deliver that consolidated infrastructure.
Great, thank you. If I can now ask Steph to give a few thoughts. Thank you.
Yes, good morning. I'm Steph from BA Systems, and I'm a manufacturing technology engineer. I work within our advanced projects and technologies team as part of the air sector. And we're currently working on a factory of the future, looking at developing technologies to bring them up to a TRL level to manufacture our next generation aircraft. As part of this, we're part of the 5G Factory of the Future project led by the Advanced Manufacturing Research Centre at their new Northwest facility. And I think Jürgen described really well what we're trying to achieve with our project. It's firstly about trialing the industrial use cases for our own benefits in-house, but secondly, about establishing a test bed to bring our whole supply chain on this journey with us and try and accelerate the adoption within industry and within our region. So we have a variety of use cases within this, and we have currently deployed a standalone 5G network at the AMRC, and are also looking at deploying a non-standalone to be able to compare the two models. So at the moment, we're starting our trials phase really. We've got some really exciting work going on, and yeah, we'll come on to a bit more about how we think OpenRAN may be able to help us with this going forward into deployment.
Great, thank you. And on to Abel.
Good morning, everyone.
Oh,
Hi.
Hi,
Paul. Morning, everyone. So my name is Abel Mayal. I am the Senior Vice President of Technology and Marketing at ESPN. Just a brief introduction about ESPN. ESPN is an American company which provides 5G end-to-end RAN solutions. Our goal has always been to break the status quo of how mobile networks has been traditionally deployed by providing high-performance radios that are simple to deploy and to manage, always based on open standards. We have a strong presence in the UK. We have an office in Slough where we have more than 100 employees. 60% of them are R&D, and we are growing and we are hiring. So if there is software and hardware engineers in the audience, please visit our webpage. And we are very active in the UK. We are involved in several projects with DCMS and also Digital Catapult. We're the RAN provider, so that means that we provide the full end-to-end solution. That means that we provide the radio hardware together with the software. And some of the main projects that we're involved in is, for example, the 5G encode project to test like industrial use cases, and also the Port of Bristol with WECA and many other partners in the consortium. We're also part of we're also one project from Frank, this funding for R&D that we are working as a partner from Denser. So yeah, very active in 5G and OpenRAN in the UK.
Great, thank you. So thanks everyone for your initial thoughts. Now, what I next want to think about is the implications of bringing OpenRAN into the network, and more about what OpenRAN can do for you. So I have my theory on this. My pet theory is that there is, because it diversifies and brings in lots of different products and it breaks things into different modules, potentially it has an opportunity to bring in new innovators and to make a difference in what you can do, and hopefully bring in new innovators into the industrial setting, which is what we're talking about. But I wonder if Abel, if you can give a few thoughts on what you think the opportunity is for OpenRAN in terms of innovation and so on.
So, I mean, we believe that to increase not only innovation, but also security and resilience of the networks, we need to extend the supply chain diversity, right? So having a technology that is based on open standards means that the 5G equipment starts to be interoperable. So that means that you bring more vendors in the ecosystem. We believe that definitely OpenRAN brings new innovators, and as traditional cellular networks, when we look to previous technology, 4G and existing 5G, has been ruled by main 2-3 players, right? And this, you cannot call it like a great supply chain diversity. And we know that if you want innovation to flourish, you need competition. the values that we see on these open standards type of networks is that you bring many players, and we have seen that in the projects that we have been involved. For example, with DCMS, you can see that you have like a new players coming into the game with 5G private networks. We have, for example, system integrators, like for example Cellnex, that are managing the whole setup of the whole network. Then you have different players for the RAN. You can have, for example, the software from RAN player, and then maybe radios hardware from someone else. And you have the core network, the virtual infrastructure, and we can see that many strong players are coming into the game. You can see like server players like Dell, HPE, Cisco are interested in this market. Even hyperscalers like Amazon or Azure, like Microsoft Azure, also is moving toward this field of industrial 5G networks, because in the end, having these number of new players, you came with new ideas, new technology, and that of course like speed up the process of innovation. The main challenge that we are facing here is the integration part, right? Something that we have seen in the current projects that we have been working in the UK, that at the end you have open standards, but you have to start agreeing of how to start setting up all these parameters. We have experience from our big customer in Japan, Rakuten. We were integrating with 5 radio vendors in a big new ecosystem. So we're bringing this new this experience to all these projects by helping in the integration. We open a 5G innovation lab in our office in Slough, where we bring all the players from specific projects. For example, we did that for Port of Bristol, WECA, where we go in our lab and we start integrating and speeding up the process of getting everything ready, right? And I think that this integration is going to be a key aspect, at least for these 2021, 2022. That is really important in order to speed up the process of making OpenRAN a success.
Thank you. So you're saying we're bringing lots of innovation, but in order to make the most of that, we need to get better at integration and get on top of that. So
correct.
Just picking up on that point. So I wonder if I can ask Steph and Ray about the integration question, because part of OpenRAN, as well as breaking into different modules, is also bringing virtualization and a more software-centric, much more of the open the radio network then is delivered as software, and then this changes the deployment model and potentially allows opportunities. I'm not sure if people choose to do them, opportunities to coexist with existing IT and OT systems. So I wonder if you can say a few words. Maybe I'll start with Steph on that, on what you think the implications of that is, either good or bad.
Yeah, of course. So, excuse me. Within our factory of the future, we're looking to move towards a much more flexible manufacturing system. So away from kind of production lines towards a reconfigurable type manufacturing environment. And I think that's where integration is going to be one of the key factors, because if we have one supplier and one product and one system, it's not going to have the flexibility we need to respond to our changing customer demands. So in terms of integration, I think that's going to allow us to evolve with our ecosystem and our supply chain and our customers, and probably eliminate some of the problems we've had in setting up the test beds. We've had quite large delays due to the supply chain, which I think has been the same for a lot of test beds across the DCMS program. And I think this move towards OpenRAN is going to make the field a lot more open to smaller companies, like Abel said, coming in and being able to provide more innovative solutions that are more bespoke to our requirements at that time, and then being able to evolve those to our changing needs. Obviously, like we've already mentioned, security and efficiency are two of our key things in manufacturing, and they're not yet fully understood by the big players, I don't feel, in terms of our requirements anyway. So having these smaller companies potentially coming in, and even, like Abel said, some of the big multinationals actually focusing on providing more specific parts of a solution than one big package, I think is going to be very beneficial to our business.
Thanks, that sounds really interesting. So the idea that because you can have small organizations, they can focus on your specific requirements.
Exactly.
Ray, have you got any thoughts on this one as well?
Absolutely. So there's 2 key points for us in this one. If we track back, a couple of decades ago, maybe 30, 40 years ago, from an industrial use case point of view within civil engineering and construction, 30, 40 years ago, we were still building bridges and massive large scale civil engineering projects without the use of as much technology as we've got now. Certainly those days, connected sites were not necessarily a key thing. But moving on with the times, if we went into a bid and said, we're not going to put internet connectivity, for example, on that construction site, we probably wouldn't be successful in any bids. So things move on, technology moves on. The second point with all of this is the nature of our business is we are constantly popping up in lots of different locations. We can have several projects on the go at any one point in time, quite often in some very remote locations as well, where we now need to provide technology connectivity, because a lot of the tools that we're using these days from an efficiency point of view, from a health and safety point of view, from a sustainability point of view, rely on dedicated connectivity. And one of the key strategies that we're trying to adopt as well from a sustainability point of view is to move away from having so much physical infrastructure on site, because maintenance and management of, if you have 100 sites on the go at any one point in time, having to maintain the physical infrastructure and staff that to ensure the service levels are maintained starts to get challenging. So we're actually on a journey of moving to a more virtualized approach where possible. And the ability or the potential for the OpenRAN technology to rely on such virtualization is quite appealing to us, certainly from civil engineering and construction space. And there's a huge potential we can see. And we'll go into some of the use cases a bit later on, I believe. But the opportunity and the benefits we've got, there's a policy paper which was postulating some challenges to the construction industry of around 33% cost savings and 50% shorter time to deliver large construction projects. So a lot of this will have to be underpinned by technology. There's a lot of new technology out there which will facilitate this, everything from connected and autonomous plants to AR, VR solutions. The potential is huge. And having this technology right now, the OpenRAN approach, is a gateway for us to realize some of those things.
Thank you. That's interesting. So the idea that I guess you can have much less variety of equipment on the site if it's moved to software virtualization, and that's much easier for your operation. So we touched on when we had the discussion before about the issues with moving. I think these projects are primarily in proof of concepts and trials. We were talking about some of the issues, I think with Ray and Steph around moving to in-life operation. I wonder if you could just touch on just for a moment the kind of things that you think need to happen to get OpenRAN from where it is now to in life.
So
I don't know which one's Ray first and then Steph. Sorry, both about to speak at the same time. So Ray first. Thank you.
So it's a very good point. And up till now we've been operating within sort of the 4 walls of the 5G testbeds and trials program. And yeah, there is a step to take from sort of project proof of concept, innovation phase to business as usual. And it's all about what is that service wrap around it. Right now, for us certainly, that the question's still out there. What is a 5G standalone OpenRAN network? Is that a service, or is that a product that's being sold? Was it a service that we subscribe to? As an organization, certainly, and I'm sure a lot of organizations are in the same place, especially from an industrial setting. In-house, we currently don't have the capabilities and the skills, to develop and deploy a private 5G network, without the supports of the consortium that we've put together, which consists of, the 5G core provider and a number of supply chain partners. So it's a question that's still out there. It's an opportunity for providers actually to take advantage of at this point in time.
Great, thank you. If I can ask Steph to comment, and then I'll.
Yeah, I think my answer was going to be exactly the same as Ray's, to be honest. It's about what the service is that's going to be provided. Is it going to be an end-to-end solution managed by an integrator? Because similar to Ray, we don't have the knowledge or capability in-house to run that ourselves, and we wouldn't want to, because we need it to be, like I said, ever evolving, to be at the cutting edge going forward. Moving from proof of concept to business as usual is quite a big step for us. We've been doing our trials so far in a completely sandboxed environment within our factory of the future, so not connected to any business systems. And making that jump to connecting to the wider business is going to bring up a lot more security questions, which I don't believe we've fully understood yet, especially within our defence industry. So it's firstly about answering those questions, seeing what an end-to-end solution looks like, but then also being able to communicate that to senior stakeholders for them to have confidence that the solution is right for our industry and our business. Thank you.
And that brings me on to, you were just discussing the service wrap and so on. That brings me on to Mick, whereas you mentioned in your introduction as well about your evolving what you do in Cellnex, but OpenRAN brings new products, but it also potentially brings new service models, as Ray and Steph just mentioned. What will the changes, I mean, it's a technical architecture, but what will those changes in architecture, what will it mean in terms of who does what from your insights of this?
I think there are three key factors here, aren't there? There's the increase in shareability. There's the ability to be even more scalable. And as I said previously, the potential advances in efficiency as well. We've already spoken a little bit about the potential reduction in the amount of hardware on site. And therefore there is the obvious efficiency around a reduced footprint, but what comes with that is potentially lower power and lower overall environmental impact if, for example, there was a requirement for air conditioning or heat monitoring or whatever that might be. So from an overall efficiency point of view, that directly relates back into the business case and therefore the service model, the commercial model that we offer to our enterprise customers. In exactly the same way as when we're talking about shareability and the ability to have more enterprises, but also more operators or operations connected into the same network, that again can drive additional competition between those networks and enable us to offer, again, the advantages, the benefits to our enterprise customers through that overall commercial model. And then the final thing I would say about scalability is, and as we've seen through the 5G logistics project, we're starting with regard to two host locations, Bristol Port and Gravity, as obviously a transport and logistics centre and a business enterprise centre. Now, what we are therefore able to do is, starting with two effectively anchor locations, then scale that up to wider areas. And as part of Project Frank, for example, another DCMS project, we're now talking about how we can deliver public and private network operations in Bristol city centre itself. And then looking at how that can be scaled up to other enterprises, other areas in that geography is going to be part of the overall network deployment that we're looking to. But what that then ultimately means, and to your point, Paul, how the technology and effectively the overall development from an overall infrastructure point of view is how that then relates back into the commercial model and the efficiency that we can then provide as neutral host into our overall enterprise customers as well.
Great, thank you. No, thank you. That was really interesting, because and I will just follow up, and I think we're sort of nearer the end of the time, so I just like, this is a wrap-up question. So if each of the each of the speakers, so thank you for your time so far, but if you can just give a thought on what are the key use cases where OpenRAN can make a difference. And if I start with Abel, I think it's been a while since you've spoken.
So I love this question about the use cases. It's like everyone is looking at the perfect use case for 5G. I think that the killer app of 5G and to make OpenRAN most useful is actually, the ecosystem that can bring more service, SLAs, like service level agreements. So that translates like the ecosystem that can bring, as you were saying previously, like more innovation and more flexibility of deployment. Together with the previous question that Nick and Ray were answering, opening new services, right? And I think that OpenRAN is one of the key drivers for that, because basically what you're doing is like you're bringing this flexibility, right? You can have the software in premises that certain industrial use cases they want to have everything in the premises. You can move parts to the close edge to reach these low latencies, or you can simplify it, put it in the cloud, for example, together with these hyperscalers. So it becomes like a type of Wi-Fi access, right? So you just purchase a couple of radios and the software is pre-installed in the cloud. So at the end is having these new players and also this new architecture. Also, one of the key values of OpenRAN is this RIC, the RAN Intelligent Controller, right? That you can open your radio to third-party software players, where they can add some algorithms to improve the efficiency of the radios to meet some new requirements for use cases. So I think that OpenRAN brings this capability of meeting these new SLAs that the industry is requesting. So I think this is the way forward.
Great, thank you. And if I can now ask Steph to give your thoughts.
Yeah, so in terms of 5G use cases and where 5G is going to be most useful, I think although we have 5 use cases within our project, it feels like it's more than the use cases that is the key. We just see it as more of an enabling technology for our future vision, more than for a specific use case. Our future factory is obviously going to be embracing IoT type technologies, AI, and everything being connected to one larger ecosystem is just going to produce huge volumes of data. So without 5G, it feels like that's just not going to be possible to analyze that data and actually use it to gain business benefit and increase our efficiency, rather than just monitoring things as we often do in our industry at the moment. Monitor things, get the data out and kind of look at it and ponder it a bit and not really feed it back in. I think that's where it's going to be really key. And then in terms of OpenRAN, as has already been said, it's the flexibility, it's the integration with our IT and OT, and that service level agreement, being able to have an ever evolving solution to suit our requirements.
Great, thank you. And Ray, if you want to say your thoughts.
Yes, indeed. So just a couple of points in there as well. From an OpenRAN perspective, yes, the potential is there for a much smaller footprint, more flexible. It's a route for us to get to 5G deployments, which will then open up, all the actual business use cases, which are driven from a point of view of efficiency, cost savings, health and safety benefits. Like I said, there's a challenge to the whole construction industry about trying to drive down costs by 33% and trying to reduce the turnaround times by up to 50%. The qualities of 5G network in terms of the ultra ultra reliable, low latency connections that would allow us to deploy lots more autonomous and connected plants and sites. In the future, I think the face of construction sites will look very, very different, because we will be able to utilize more technology that would allow us to increase the pace of the construction, but also reduce the amount of people having to travel to sites. Bear in mind, a lot of our sites are sometimes in quite remote locations. But having things like ultra reliable, low latency connections, enhanced mobile broadbands allow us to do things like augmented and virtual reality, digital twins, even things such as opening up the opportunity for physically challenged people to then get interested in construction, because if the tools available allows for them to carry out their task without having to be physically on site, then that is an advantage. Construction sites, by definition, are hazardous locations. They're dynamic and they're hazardous because we've got lots of things going on which are potential health and safety risks. The technology would allow us to mitigate some of those by removing some of those people from the face of the construction sites, but still be able to carry out their duties as required. If we don't have as many people on site, we don't have as many potentials for health and safety issues or risks to arise, etc. So yes, the potential is huge, and it's something that I think the construction industry as a whole is eagerly looking forward to.
Great, thank you. And if I can ask Mick for your last words.
I think just in summing up, I'd pretty much reflect what other people have said already as well. I'm not going to suggest there's a killer app. I'm not going to suggest there's a killer use case. But what I am going to suggest is that the volume, as others have said, of potential new applications and new use cases is what is going to be driven by 5G and OpenRAN. And in fact, what is actually therefore the biggest use case is the capability for driving that volume, the scalability that enables us to say that we're not going to be reliant on singular use cases or singular killer apps. It opens up the whole sort of range of new opportunities. And just to that point, the overall scalability that you'll see with the volume of devices, the volume of applications, the volume of bandwidth that's going to be available to you is what can therefore be, for me, if there was a singular killer app, the one thing.
Great, thank you. And I am almost out of time. If anyone's got a very quick answer, one of the questions was around, I think we mentioned supply chain impacting the delivery of some of these projects. And the question here is around whether that is on the hardware supply chain, so it's irrespective of the OpenRAN vendors, or whether bringing, I guess the question is whether bringing in multiple different OpenRAN suppliers actually helps that supply chain. I wonder, I think Abel's probably closest to this, so can probably comment on your perspectives.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, competition is very valuable. So when looking at the industrial use cases, right? At the S-band, we provide, these 5G radios with algorithms that are used for cover the majority of the use case. But of course, having opening the standards to have third-party vendors that can interact with our radios to improve the existing algorithms for us. This is a great value for us, for S-band, but also for the end customer, right? Because you're bringing this extra intelligence. We cannot know what all the verticals and use cases needs, but the important thing is to have a radio that is capable to adapt to meet these challenges, right? So having this OpenRAN infrastructure and also mixing with maybe other vendors, like a new radio with a different form factor, a different power, at the end speed up this process of meeting these requests. So that would be my view.
Great, thank you. So thank you everyone for speaking. I thought that was really interesting. And my takeaway was 5G is in general good. Flexibility that it brings is really important in terms of getting solutions that solve particular problems, very particular problems, and getting competition to drive that, as Evan was just saying again. And also there's an opportunity to move to SLAs and new service models, which is a different way of building and operating networks, which OpenRAN can then help doing that through a lot of the virtualization. So those are the kind of key takeaways I took from it. So thank you very much to all the speakers. And if I can now ask you to all go on mute and turn off your camera, so that then, yeah, but thank you very much for your time. And Linda comes back. So
thank you very much. Thank you, Paul, and everyone for joining the panel. We're going to hear about an OpenRAN opportunity actually shortly. But before we do that, I just would like to invite Maddalena Nazare, who is the Director of Collaborative Research and Development at Digital Catapult, to tell us something about some R&D opportunities. Maddalena, please join us in this virtual stage. Hi, lovely to see you. So I'm gonna hand over to you. Looking forward to hear more about what's coming next.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Linda, for the introduction. I always find it difficult in 5 minutes to tell people about public funding, but think about it this way. We just heard a lot of talk about how innovation is risky and how there are many obstacles, both from a technical and more importantly, business perspective to develop and implement new technology that is there to make things better for the society. But the good news is that public funders understand that too. And there are a number of opportunities that come around frequently, either from UK sources or from European sources. And before I get the FAQ, we can still apply for European funds. The UK government is currently guaranteeing the UK participation to the Horizon Europe framework. So think about the business problem that you have, or think about the product development roadmap that you have, because you may be either a big industrial partner who is concerned about all this technology coming into their site and not knowing exactly what choices to make, or you can be on the other side of the development curve, which is, I am a technology developer, I am an innovative company, how do I prove that my idea is good? How do I mature my technology? How can I work with industry to prove it in an environment? This is all the work that has been done as well, quite well by the various projects that would funded under DCMS, and also various demonstrators that came out of other challenges like transforming construction, like Made Smarter, a lot of different initiatives from the UK government in that respect. I've put a few links for all of you there to see, and I advise you to check on these opportunities monthly, and it really depends on your needs. You can go for a small project, a proof of concept, and for those, you may not need to go to the big funders like Innovate UK. You may also work with people who are already having a partnership and they have 50 to 60K typically to distribute. And that's why I've listed their F-Success Funding Box. And of course, Digital Catapult, we are part of some of those partnerships as well. Or you can look at a bigger project and a bigger development and check the European opportunities, the DCMS Base and Innovation Funding Service portal. And do get in touch with the address that is listed on the opportunities that you see. They are complex, they are confusing, and a lot of the words there, when you read them first time, you may find it difficult to place yourself. But one of the things I found always useful is to actually use the support that is being provided with the opportunity that's published. And if we move on to the next slide, this is one of the opportunities that we are currently looking in Digital Catapult. The Industrial Energy Transformation Fund is actually looking to roll out studies and demonstrators that are looking to see how current industrial sites, which are inefficient, can make use of advanced technologies in order to reduce their energy bills, less emissions, and of course being able to act as well on the results of their current consumption versus their future consumption. If you are interested to work on this opportunity, do give us an email to the email address we listed, or if you want to talk about your innovation and other opportunities that you might be pursuing, we would be happy to speak with you.
Thank you, Madalena. Definitely a very exciting open call and very needed in those times where the energy costs are getting super high. So thank you for joining me. Now, just would like to tell you all about an event, a very exciting event this month is the UK's 5G Showcase, which is a 2-day in-person conference and exhibition, which will take place on the 22nd and 23rd of March in Birmingham. This event celebrates the latest UK successes and progresses from the UK government's coordinated 5G testbeds and trials program. You'll be able to hear directly from those who have been at the 5G front line and really an opportunity to meet some of the industrial 5G project teams so you can find out more about the work, but also other projects in other sectors such as creative. So we, Digital Catapult is obviously very proudly supporting this event with a number of our senior leader speakers, the conference, and also through our exhibition presence. So if you do decide to attend, do meet us at Stand 30 to find out more about what we do and also how we might want to collaborate. To book the tickets, there is a link that will be posted also on the chat. There is an option to join the conference as a virtual attendee, but of course, I recommend in-person presence, and I hope that some of you can make it. Now, before we move to the next panel, we'd like to share with you one more opportunity around the programs called Sonic Labs. But before we find out, I just want to play you a short video.
So Sonic Labs is a joint piece of work between Digital Catapult and Ofcom to work on open and disaggregated networks.
Backed by test and measurement equipment.
It is a technical capability that we're building.
It is a geographically distributed network.
We really hope that companies in the UK and elsewhere will come and join us to explore how we can bring new radio access technologies into the UK market.
We are delighted to be part of the Sonic program. We are in a position to showcase, integrate and test our solutions with a variety of innovative suppliers.
It's great to see that the Digital Catapult and the Ofcom teams have this facility up and running in multiple sites, and they're already experimenting with OpenRAN vendors.
The opportunity to collaborate, test and demonstrate interoperability is a major attraction for us.
It's an opportunity for a more diverse, more innovative, more secure and more resilient set of networks.
It's all about getting this into the UK market.
It will mean the UK being able to lead the world in a way that delivers a more developed market and a whole new range of options for businesses and consumers as well.
The government's long-term vision for the market is one which is healthy, competitive, innovative, diverse. You can build that competition, you can build that innovation through collaborative practices.
At Ofcom, we really want to see and to promote and to encourage so that people and businesses in the UK get the benefits of that innovation.
It's pretty much a first.
For us, the learning that we get when things don't work is just as important, perhaps even more instructive than when things do work together.
It offers opportunities for new players to come into the UK market, which works and is aligned with the government's diversification strategy.
We're looking to expand the number of people and partners that we're working with.
Innovation that will continue to happen, things like working in interoperability, looking at how multi-vendor solutions can actually deliver, will be integral to delivering the strategy.
This is all about bringing innovation into our networks for the future, and we hope you'll come and join us.
So this is just a little glimpse onto our new lab and of course an exciting program. We've heard already about OpenRAN. What's coming next? Hi, Paul. So yes, over to you. What's happening?
As well as Director of Technology Strategy at Digital Catapult and the Co-Director of Sonic, along with Dritten, who I think is speaking later. Here, I just want to mention a couple of things that we're doing. So as we're discussing there, we're sitting between a very early stage well, not very early stage standalone products to get them integrated into end-to-end solutions and then go on to more commercial engagements. And what you saw in the video was our first set of products that we brought together last year. And then thank you to DCMS, we have further funding to continue this program for another 2 years. And what we're going to be doing is building a more, that was using our existing test beds. We're going to build a proper test bed, but also we're doing, investing quite a bit in the test and measurement to make the whole process a lot simpler and easier and automating as much as you can of the integration process. And we will be, as Joe mentioned on the video, so it's still true, we'll be expanding and bringing in new products. That's what we want to do. So I think that's the call to action here, isn't it? Linda. So if and this is right now. We'll have some other discussions and external sort of engagements later on. But right now, what we're interested in is new potential OpenRAN products. So if you've got an OpenRAN product that you think it would be good to integrate into a new end-to-end solution, then please get in touch. And I think we're going to put an email in the
Thank
chat.
you.
Is that right?
Yes, exactly. We're gonna do get in touch by email. You will see it in a second in the chat. There are going to be more opportunities and open calls that will go public in the upcoming months. But if you want to find out more how to participate, how do you want to keep in touch with us and find out more about the program, do drop us a line and we'll be in touch with you. Thank you very much, Paul. Great
thank you.
To have you again. Great. So I think it's time now to introduce our next panel, which will talk about what can be done to speed up 5G technology adoption in manufacturing and logistics. And I would like to invite Dritan Kaleshi, Director of 5G Technology, who is going to be the chair for the panel today. Dritan, please put your camera on, and I will hand over to you to introduce the panelists, the panel.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Linda. And good morning, everyone. Glad to have you with us. The following panel is taking the usual approach of Digital Catapult, that is acting as an organization that is connecting together the support for the adoption of advanced technologies with the development of those technologies. And in Sonic Labs, we are looking more towards supporting the development of the technologies, whilst over the past 4 and 5 years, we have been working on the technology adoption. And this panel today, which I'm extremely glad to be chairing and moderating, is what can be done to speed up the technology, 5G technology adoption, and what other steps the UK 5G ecosystem can take to speed up a kind of a meaningful adoption at this. By way of context, we are at the end of a sustained 5-year program of intervention by the UK government into supporting the adoption of 5G specifically, and cellular and wireless technologies more broadly, into digital innovation in vertical industries. And in specifically the sectors that we are looking today is in manufacturing and logistics. We are 5 years later, we are coming at the end of it, and 5G technology currently is readily available. You can buy it, you can deploy it, as you can see on some of the questions that are posted on the previous panel. But let's be realistic, the adoption of private networks in general, cellular private networks in enterprise and more specifically manufacturing, is still in trials phase. Not the least referring to what Ray said in the previous panel on a business model around private networks. Whilst the industrial 5G testbeds and trials has been demonstrating a variety of use cases, like 5G-enabled manufacturing, 5GEM, looking to exploring 5G for AI-enabled predictive maintenance, or 5G factories of the future that Steph, that spoke in the previous panel, works on how supporting digital twins with AR and VR technology and reconfigurable assembly lines. The question is, how do we take forward this kind of a bit of an awakening, an education, and a technical assessment of the capabilities of the 5G to underpin the digital infrastructure of the industrial sectors, the vertical industrial sectors? How can we take it forward towards a more sustained and a commercially successful one? It is with great pleasure, as I said, to moderate today's panel, where we have panelists across industry and government, and in particular manufacturing and logistics industry. So we have with us Mohamed Larry, Sophie James, Nikesh Mistry, and Nina Griff. And I'll ask each one, I'm inviting all of the panelists to effectively come online as it is. Please show your faces and join me on the virtual stage, please. And I would like to ask the very, very first question of the panel, and also use that question to introduce yourself. And the question is, we know that there are many opportunities. These many opportunities have moved from the realm of the possibilities 4 or 5, 3 years ago to something that is quite potentially tangible. But what do you think, each one of you, what do you think in the UK is the market perception of 5G as an enabler for digital innovation and digital transformation? Where are we at this moment? And I would like to start with Mohamed. Mo, please.
Thanks, Tretan, and good morning to everyone who's joined us. Just a quick start on who we are as a program. If this is the first time you're hearing about the 5G Testbeds and Trials program, we're essentially a research and development outfit housed in the Department for Digital, Culture, Media and Sport. What is essentially a perfect home for all things 5G, really, particularly around some of the use cases and early applications that we're seeing traction for. So it's in part delivered by the government, but also by the industry and the academic researchers that help us understand the value and the drive for the adoption. I am Mohamed Larry, as Dritton's mentioned, so I look after our program's efforts across the various nodes of public services, across different government departments. I interact with countries and other programs that are similar to ours internationally and coordinate our research efforts where possible, and particularly working with Digital Catapult, Make UK, Tech UK, and the various other panelists that have spoken previously to help ensure that the UK is on that sort of front step. Quite quickly, Dritton, from what we're perceiving as a program, there's sort of two sides to the coin. One, which is the public operations or the public network, and we're seeing Ofcom's most recent report, Connected Nations 2021, which suggested over 40% of UK premises had 5G coverage from at least one operator. What that means for industry is, of course, what we're hearing from our trialists or our project partners, essentially, is that while there are some teething problems, whether that's related to network infrastructure delays, whether that's related to better coordination between different ecosystem partners, those speed bumps are actually what we would have assumed for any new emerging technology. We're seeing the market is moving at pace. We've had over 200 businesses interact with us through our program and other research organizations. And that interest level is growing. The level of equipment, people's comfort with the equipment, people's comfort or businesses' comfort with the use cases, that's growing. And a lot of the networking equipment is still coming to market. A lot of our project partners were working with products that were sort of based on release 15, and we're seeing release 16 devices come to market, and more so eventually release 17 and thereafter. So our project partners are really at the cutting edge of their trials. We're seeing those reference cases that they've developed be picked up. I've got another conference right after this, which is again speaking to the value of 5G in the market. So we're getting more traction, more people are talking about it, more people are knocking on our virtual door, I should say, about what is going on in the ecosystem. So that itself is a fairly positive remark for us. And so we're still in the early adoption cycle, but again, we'll get into more details about that.
Thank you, Mohamed. Nina, if I can ping you with the same question and by way of introducing you, please.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Nina Griff, Senior Policy Manager at Make UK. It's a trade association that represents around 20,000 manufacturers in the UK. My focus is on how to help manufacturers accelerate digital adoption, help them to innovate and create the best business for growth, also influencing government on any ideas, policies to help become more competitive, productive, and efficient. So where the manufacturers are in terms of digital adoption. So when we talk about 5G, industrial 5G and digital adoption and the digital technologies, it kind of goes hand in hand, like was mentioned a couple of times, 5G being the enabler for digital adoption. And according to our recent research from last year that was published in November, there is a huge jump. Manufacturers are accelerated their digital adoption in the past 12 months, probably pushed by the pandemic. When we look into 4IR and the revolution stage, they kind of moved from the thinking about it, investing, and they are in the last 23% are in the last revolution stage, comparing to 2020. In 2020, when it was only 13% in that revolution stage. And what do we mean by revolution stage? Is the stage when they derive value and interact with customers and suppliers through digital adoption. And in comparison, when we've done this Innovation Monitor, this research in 2018, it was only 4% of manufacturing in that last benefiting stage. So also kind of giving the point on, there is a bit of a regional story as well. So above average in that revolution stage, manufacturers are in the region of Northwest and London, but Northwest, that's probably influenced by Made Smarter pilot adoption program. It's already engaging with the SMEs in that region. That's why we want the Made Smarter to be fully roll out nationally.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Nina. And Nikesh, please come in and same question and introduction, please.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you for all the comments so far. They've been really interesting, and the previous panel session was as well. As Dritan said, I'm Nikesh Mistry. I'm the sector head for industrial automation at Gambika. So Gambika, for those who don't know, we're also a trade association representing manufacturers in the industries of industrial automation, laboratory technology, process control, instrumentation, and test and measurement in the UK. So we speak to a number of organizations on a regular basis through interest groups and different meetings that we have. So a number of manufacturers from large multinationals to SMEs to even smaller businesses. So to get an idea about the 5G adoption, and to answer your question, Dritan, about whether there's a market for it in itself, I would say there definitely is a huge market for it. And at the moment, what I'm seeing more than ever is while the pandemic was devastating in many ways, it has acted as an accelerator for digital technologies. So you know there is ways in which many of the manufacturers we speak to have had to, in the past 2 years, speed up their journey to digitalization, because they've realized overnight they need to dial into machines, they need to do remote machine maintenance, they need to have the infrastructure in place to keep their supply chain going with all the ongoing Brexit problems and issues that we're having with bringing in containers and things like that. They needed to enhance their systems. They needed better stock level checks on their supply chains. They needed a lot of these technologies. And so 5G was definitely the enabler there, one of the enablers, which we have seen them managing to adopt. But again, as everyone else has said, it is very slow. There are other areas where we can increase the adoption. I think, as Nina said, it's a lot higher in the Northwest because of the Northwest pilot and the Made Smarter actual report and the support that they're providing there. Gambika were actually part of the original Made Smarter review. And the Midlands is also being accelerated by the UK government. I believe there's an infrastructure accelerator in the West Midlands, which is a 5G project which aims to actually reduce the cost of the implementation of 5G. So these are all things that are undergoing at the moment, and that will allow us to see see more expansion of the 5G network, but really and truly, there needs to be a lot more. We need to see that further down south. We need to see that in areas of London, because at the moment, I think the 5G is a lot higher up north and in the Midlands.
Thank you very much. And Sophie, if you can come in, a similar question, but the point of view coming from the Tech UK, which is more of a the ICT community, let's put it in a very broad sense of the word. So please come in, Sophie. Yeah.
Thank you, Dritan, and good morning, everyone. So, yeah, as Dritan mentioned, I am head of telecoms and spectrum policy here at Tech UK. So, if you're unaware, Tech UK is the, again, trade association, bring together people, companies, organisations to realise the positive outcomes that digital technology can achieve. And yes, I'm here today to represent the supply base, I suppose, for advanced private networks. So those telecoms companies and organizations really, expert in delivering communication services through different technology, but including 5G and of course, Wi-Fi as well. In terms of the question, Dritan, it's a fascinating one, and I would 100% echo what my colleagues said so far. Indeed, the impact of the pandemic in terms of accelerating digital transformation and really adding in 5G as part of that transformation. So it's things like cloud-based services, how that interlinks with 5G, but also in terms of, today, from a kind of policy perspective, we're seeing that telecoms linking with this vision of the UK as a tech and science superpower. So if we can, fire up the manufacturing and logistics sector in terms of innovating, I think that will be really positive, and 5G adoption can help with that, certainly. But I think just for me, a really key point that I want to make as we kick off is that it's about meeting those user requirements for those enterprise customers when it comes to advanced private networks. So it might be that 5G is absolutely that solution, but really it's about what technology can do. And other panelists previously touched upon this. It's about meeting user requirements rather than just saying, here you go, here's 5G. So I think that's a really key point to kick off our conversation.
Thank you. I absolutely agree on the last point. So the idea in particular for in any technology adoption, but in particular in the telecoms and any enabling technologies, the idea of taking a non-partisan technology approach and doing a genuine analysis to what is the gives the best, not purely just the return on investment, but both long-term, mid-term support. That is a very, very crucial point. If I may also ask, so we are in this, and the ether and the internet is full of possibilities. And even one of the questions in the previous panel was about how does this become a bit more tangible. So again, to the panel, and I will start with Nina. Potentially, you mentioned primarily because you mentioned some very interesting statistics on the 2018 to 2021, 4% to 22% on digital adoption, reaching the revolution stage, as that you called it. So starting with you, what do you think that will be the in making the 5G proposition as an enabling technology, and more broadly digital infrastructure technology, be that private networks or others, to the manufacturers? What do you think the impact will be there? And if you can put it together with use cases, that would be even better. Nina.
I can give some stats as well. So exactly agreeing with the panelists that we're talking about looking into the issue and finding solutions. All the cutting edge technologies that we look into and our members, like 3D printers, IoT, artificial intelligence, and robotics automation, they are bringing a lot of benefits. It's a huge opportunity for manufacturers to invest, and they are already reaping the benefits of using them. And when we look into the specific technologies that 5G connection definitely enables better connectivity and better usage of these technologies. The top one is Internet of Things that the respondents believe are the most impacting the most running of the business. Then it follows by 6 in 10 believe that AI are making a lot of difference running their business, followed by, again, additive manufacturing and robotics. It's all over 50%, all over half of manufacturers believe that these are creating a huge impact in their business. And if we think about what kind of benefits, so top benefit at this stage, like 56% of manufacturers believe it's the cutting cost of running business. This is what all these digital technologies can bring to your business. Then if we want to connect these technologies into how they can become more greener businesses and decarbonize their processes, again, it's like 35% of these machineries, of these technologies, improve raw material and waste efficiency. 33% believe the process improvements contributing to cutting emissions, which is quite a big number. And if I can give an example of one of our members, a small company that worked together with a larger global company and one of the catapults as well. So it's a cooperation process. And it was a small British company. They developed a revolutionary packaging system that's reducing their consumption. So they previously used high temperature for the wrapping, and they switched into the cold wrapping technology. And time to the market reduced by 40%. A new business model of paper wrap was introduced. New digital twin for specific machine management introduced. Monitoring has led to reduction in machine downtime, and also 24/7 connectivity control efficiency. And we have lots of examples like that.
Thank you very much, Nina. And more what you probably see from the industrial 5G projects. Where do the industrial 5G projects and the manufacturing sector participants in particular, and logistics sector, where do they expect the biggest impact? It seems to be something that is chiming that we are not looking for a single use case, not for a single kind of, to use the words of the previous panel again, killer application, but it is almost an additive effect of multiple use cases where having a more agile digital infrastructure, which 5G symbolizes at this moment, can provide benefits. So what do you think in this space? What are your thoughts?
I think that's exactly it, Tritan. What we heard from the previous panel is that there isn't a silver bullet or one use case that trumps others. Oftentimes when we were first starting out, oftentimes what we heard from manufacturers, suppliers, distributors was that connectivity wasn't a primary concern for them, that it wasn't part of their R&D budget, it wasn't part of their digital transformation roadmap. However, what we're learning from the Made Smarter program, what we're learning from our own test beds and trials program, what we're seeing from the Free Ports initiative that's currently underway, is that it actually enables, as others have said, the various other technologies that manufacturers, distributors would like to implement, whether that's to reduce cost, whether that's to decarbonize sustainability, provide a more circular sort of sustainable footprint for their, for example, manufacturing floor, provide greater support and safety for their workers. A lot of those technologies, or a lot of those sort of transformations that they're seeking to make, requires the underlying digital pipeline. And so what we're seeing from the trials is predictive intelligence, effective inspections, perhaps even robotic inspections and autonomous inspections. We're seeing avenues to improve workplace and overall worker safety. Operational effectiveness, whether it's sending junior technicians out to service a client site and having a senior technician operate what is essentially an augmented reality coupled with digital twin operations. It's some of those areas that we're seeing greater traction for. We're finding that a lot of it actually spills over into upskilling their employees. They go from executing operations to much wider systems thinking or implementation thinking, and they look to improve their output while also reducing sort of their bottom line. And that's what we're seeing. And that's what we're seeing both in terms of from our trials, but also what the wider sector is doing as well.
Thanks very much, Mo. Nikesh, looking at you, there is a very broad range of potential use cases and case studies. I have to say, from my experience, there is still a lack of clear, and well articulated commercial return on investment studies. But from your experience and what you see from your members, what other exciting use cases or case studies have you seen as a successful 5G deployment in manufacturing, and where do you see those benefits kind of being realized?
That's a really good question, actually, Dritan. And it touches on some of the things that Mohammed just mentioned, actually. And one of the key words he used there was sustainability. And I think what some of the use cases I've seen are due to trying to achieve these other outside business objectives. So if the business is trying to, better their carbon footprint, they will look at the process in reverse. So that's what we've been discovering amongst a lot of our manufacturers, is that they need to see, what their overall goal is for their business at the moment. They might have multiple, and then they take it from there and then take it backwards right down to the first step, which might be increased machine productivity. It might be lowering output. It might be looking at machine downtime, all of these sorts of things. So some of the, one of the scenarios I mentioned was actually due to the pandemic. I mentioned it earlier. And that was one of our member companies, who's an SME, actually decided to create a system which allows them to remotely connect to their machines, and adopting it through using 5G technology. I'm not going to mention the name of any company because it's not fair on anyone else, but they really managed to sing their own praises just because it allowed them to extend their asset life through real-time maintenance, and they could shine into their customers' machinery. And that really helped them through a time of difficulty. So I think one of the, as you said, there's not many clear-cut use case scenarios yet, and that's because of the slow adoption. There's lots of concern around 5G, with the costs, with the security concerns, legacy systems, access to technology, and skills and knowledge. These are all barriers which are brought up, but when they look back at their business and say, okay, wait, this actually helped my sustainability. Oh, wait, we increased our output here. They look at other companies that have done so, and that really helps them say, oh, okay, well, we're a company exactly the same as them. And, being part of all of our associations and things like that allow you to speak to other companies which are doing this. And, they can see real use case scenarios and say, okay, they've implemented 5G and they've benefited by reducing their carbon footprint. So this is why we should do this too. So the opportunity is there. It's about increasing the awareness about how the barriers can be overcome.
Thank you, Nikesh. And I'll ask directly now a question. I won't wait until for the end of the panel to ask a very specific question, which I think is a fantastic question from the audience, which is it's the question reads: are people just using 5G as a convenient umbrella term to cover advanced wireless? Or are they specifically looking at the difference on kind of cellular solution, which come under 5G/4G, private networks, Wi-Fi, etc.? Because and this is related a bit to the perception question that we had earlier. I have my own views. I genuinely like this question because it makes it kind of anchors some of the discussions that people have in this space for a meaningful and purposeful adoption rather than just having a wider. So Sophie, primarily I'm throwing this, starting with you, but I will ask everyone in the panel on how do you feel about this, and maybe referring a bit to the delta change and the education that needs to happen on vertical sectors, what we call vertical sectors, related to very, very unknown technology. So Sophie, please, if you want to start.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. I think that's a really fascinating question and a debate we have, you know, when talking to my members here at Tech UK. And it goes back to my original point. You'll go where you're looking user requirements first, and you're thinking about technology later. Of course, there are certain environments and certain applications that absolutely with 5G, it's crucial that that's the right way to go. But we've seen that, you know, currently there are some deployments that are even using, you know, 4G and LTE. That's still there as a mix in the mix. But we're seeing, you know, developments in things like Wi-Fi 6, very much offering the same kind of benefits that 5G enables as well. And then thinking about, you know, we're talking about logistics here today. I think, where does satellite connectivity come in when you're thinking about tracking assets and providing that kind of backhaul technology in remote, kind of very rural areas? I think that's an interesting thing to look at as well. Yeah, and absolutely, it's that, you know, Nikesh has already mentioned that legacy network piece, and thinking about how we how the telecom sector works with its customers to say, okay, you're building a business case for digital transformation. It's not just about connectivity. You're thinking about how it integrates with your IT, OT infrastructure, and even, you know, even systems like, you know, an HR system or your emails. It's all kind of coming into the mix. So I think as we can help kind of guide and work in partnership and collaboration with customers of advanced private networks, we can then sort of say, okay, perhaps we start with this, but as it iterates and evolves and you understand the use cases a bit more, then we can stretch and unlock some of these really advanced technologies, you know, like Nina's mentioned AR as a good example. But first starting out with understanding the business case and helping our customers really understand what can be enabled. I think that's really key.
Thank you very much. Nina and Nikesh, any comments from you on this particular?
Just a quick comment. I think the more we still talk about it, the better, because I think there's still not a lot of understanding what the 5G is, what industrial 5G is. Some people are saying, why don't we just cover the 4G first properly, you know, roll out that instead. So there's I think still a bit of a confusion for people who, you know, this is not their job. It took me a while as well to get here. So I think the more we are getting there, I think, but still a bit more to do.
Thank you, Nikesh.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with the both comments above just now that it is about unlocking those technologies, and we're still not there yet. But what I must say to the question about 5G being a convenient umbrella term, I think was the phrase used, and just a buzzword. It's definitely not just that. I think 5G does boast a lot more benefits. There's huge benefits over 5G with 4G. I think it was 20 times higher speed. There's zero latency with 5G, which is the actual delay between in milliseconds. So that data can be sent from one place to another. There's zero latency, so there's no delay. The amount of data that can actually be achieved by 5G is unrivaled as well. So you're going from connecting hundreds of sensors with 4G to connecting thousands of sensors with 5G. So, you know, the capabilities of 5G are there. They are, you know, they're not myths, they're not rumors, they're factual. It's just that the adoption side of things is slower, and the awareness of how beneficial 5G will be is slower. So I think that's where you know, the barriers come in.
Thank you very much, Nikesh. And if in the same vein, Mo, if I can kind of morph the question a bit more, because I think whilst both Nina and Nikesh mentioned primarily the better understanding that it's very, very obvious that has happened already, the better education around the opportunities from a technology capability into matching the requirements from matching the requirements of the technology adopters, the operational side. From the industrial 5G project and from DCMS, where do you see potentially some of this education reflecting a bit more on the technical approaches, and in particular the non-partisan technology approach that people need to adopt? So this is not 5G shoved down the throats of people. This is an introduction to 5G, to Wi-Fi, to other technologies that effectively can enable things to be done better for manufacturers, which is a slightly more different way and a bit more blunt than what you said earlier, Sophie. So if I borrow your words. So Mo, what do you think on the lessons learned on the technical side on some of the projects and how they are coming together?
I think from that perspective, there's one key area where 5G sort of trumps other technologies, and that's largely to do with security and resilience of the operations. For manufacturers, for distributors, for suppliers, that's quite key to their business model. I mean, it is for other sectors as well, but this is one where both the IPR as well as the manufacturing processes are quite reliant on the security. And it is that secure principle that allows for us to move from trials to actual adoption, commercial success. A lot of what we've been doing over the last few years alongside Digital Catapult and what is dubbed as sort of the UK 5G, the innovation network, is talking about the business challenges, as the other panelists have mentioned, and how does that translate into solutions from the digital pipeline? Do our project partners actually require the low latency, the high bandwidth, the larger capacity from a 5G network, or could a solution be derived out of a 4G LTE network? And we're finding that for certain use cases, NB-IoT and other sort of network technologies allow for that. However, when we're talking about rail data consumption from high definition video footage, looking at sort of welding joints, and this is an example from one of our trials, looking at welding joints to detect anomalies. There you're using high definition images, you're comparing and contrasting those images to previous data sets. So you'll need to run sort of a machine learning or AI algorithm to get that processed in real time. And what we're finding is that both the download and the upload of that requires sort of the bandwidth and the capacity provided by a wireless 5G solution. We're seeing other sort of technologies come into market. Those provide similar speeds, such as Wi-Fi 6. However, there is that sort of development within the 5G ecosystem, which is sort of the SLAs that you can build around, or the service level agreements that a customer can build around with their operators. The technology that's coming to market allows for your machines to better connect and integrate into, I guess, an umbrella network to allow for all of your devices to be controlled by a simple, perhaps a more integrated user plane, rather than having 5 or 4 different applications to manage different machinery. So if we could do it under one umbrella, and what we're finding is our project partners are wanting that more and more, making their processes a bit more efficient, making it more digestible by their employees. We're finding that those sort of opportunities are creating the takeoff points for 5G over other scenarios.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks. I kind of absolutely agree on that. And because very, very often the technical advances are not disseminated as broadly, they are hidden under the better education that typically the cross-disciplinary, cross-industry collaboration effectively brings. So I want now to explore a bit more, because typically everyone knows usually what the barriers are. So a better understanding of the opportunity, a better understanding of the business models, like what Ray mentioned in the previous panel, as in, is it a service model, is it a lease model, is it a supply model of equipment for the private networks? What are the matching of the requirements, the role of the system integrators, etc. So we have only about 6-7 minutes, so I would want to ask quickly everyone, kind of between in your areas of expertise and where you represent a wider effectively the largest part of the communities, both in manufacturing, logistics, between Gambica and Make UK and Tech UK in terms of the ICT community industry in the UK. Where do you see, and with you, Mo, both in terms of, if you can put forward, apart from a better understanding and improvement, other key constraints, roadblocks that you see from your side of the fence, and how we can make that fence a bit more permeable, a bit more to allow better diffusion and coming together of the two sides, as well as on the technology side. So how can we ensure system integrators, device manufacturers, including network equipment manufacturers, system integrators and deployers can come together? Starting with, let's do it on different industries. So starting with Nikesh quickly.
Sure. So I see there being an increase in adoption. I see there being a major increase in adoption in the next 12 months from a lot of areas. And actually, just to touch on the question mentioned in the chat there, which I just saw following up on what I said before about zero latency being wrong. I just wanted to mention on that. I mean, to say zero latency, I understand completely might be wrong in that sense. That is what 5G boasts, but it's the same as net zero. We're never going to be at zero emissions, never, ever. There'll always be emissions there. But when you say net zero, it's going to be something where it's contained as close to zero as possible. So in terms of latency, you know, how close to zero do we need to get to realize the full potential of 5G really and truly? You know, there's a protocol called URLLC, which is expected to deliver better than 1 millisecond latency. So, I mean, really and truly, it's something that we're not there yet. We're not there with the rollout. The UK is one of the slowest countries who are achieving 5G. So it's something that, you know, we're yet to see this level of latency, but it is there. And so that's another thing. The more and more we see 5G adopted around the UK, the wider UK, the better the benefits of it that we will actually realize. You know, many years ago, people would have said similar things about 4G and not realizing its capability. So I think it's about increasing the use cases, things like autonomous vehicles, machine remote servicing, all the things that we've mentioned in the conversation today really will benefit from the wider adoption.
Thanks, Nikesh. Nina, your views?
So I think a fast follow-up on what Mo said before on cybersecurity. There is an opportunity there because for the pandemic, it was almost 50%. I'm going with the data. Almost 50% of manufacturers had this secure system compromised. And 1 in 8 says that like this is a huge barrier in digital adoption, cybersecurity. So if we can connect 5G as something that can help fix that and address that, that's a great point. Also looking at the barriers and what is it that we can do about them. Manufacturing sector is very diverse. We have different types of businesses. We have majority is SMEs, vast majority are SMEs. Some of them are fast, agile, innovative, that large global leaders can learn from. And some of them are still a little bit behind. They just need to be aware of the benefits, to kind of overcome the barriers like access to finance, access to skills and knowledge. So we need simplified financing schemes, localized, region-based. So each region needs something different. There are different needs locally. It all also has to be connected to education and skills, address that. The kind of mid-technical skills need to be acknowledged by the government and addressed by the government, and also knowledge. So I think 47% needs that kind of impartial technical advice. And I think this is something that where they can start from. start the, I don't know, digital roadmap. Just talk to someone. Some of them maybe don't even need, like someone mentioned before, 5G or robots or AI. Maybe they just need a new software and they can use Help to Grow, which is like another government program on digital adoption. So there are different ways, but I think the technical, practical advice available and access to different institutions. I mentioned Made Smarter. I think universities, Catapult centers, it would be great to be more visible and accessible for manufacturers.
Thank you very much. I very much like that need for partial tech advice space. Sophie, from your perspective, what is needed again on the other side of the fence? And by the way, I have to say it very clearly, I hate the fence, but it is a fact.
There are no fences, Dritan. We're one big happy family here. But no, I mean, absolutely. There's very much a role for the tech and telecom sector to play in being a helpful partner and not, and helping demystify for our private network customers some of the terminology, some of the technology, so that they can just come to us, the tech sector, and say, I need this, I need help with this, perhaps you can help us upskill. As Nina's mentioned, I think that's crucially important. Absolutely accessing things like Help to Grow Digital, if we saw that perhaps expand to say, adding connectivity into that, I think that would be a really helpful step forward. So yeah, there's absolutely a role for us to play. And as Nina's mentioned, it's not what Tech UK would like to see is the amazing use cases and test beds and program, the things that Mo's helped delivered, taking those learnings and just spreading it across as many parts of the economy and industry as possible. For instance, agritech, food and drink is one of the biggest manufacturing sectors in the whole country. However, are we nailing that connectivity challenge in rural areas for farms, as an example? So yeah, there's a lot more that we can do, but I know that my members here at Tech UK are very much willing and positive partners for their potential customers. So yeah, more to do, but it's a positive future for sure.
Thank you very much. And more kind of similar question, but if you were to have a webinar like this in 2 years' time, what would you want to effectively see at that point?
I think just picking up on the last question, I'll come back to this. From DCMS, one of the priorities is to ensure that private 5G network adoption, the pace accelerates. And to do that, we're working with Ofcom to ensure that the spectrum that users or customers are demanding is the spectrum, or they have access to that spectrum once they've sort of filed in and requested for it. Making sure what they've asked for is what they're getting is a key challenge that we're trying to overcome, and one of the things that we've seen from our trials. In terms of what I'd love to see, part of it goes back to the conversation that the previous panel had, which is around diversification of the supply chain, and I'd like to bring that back to what does that mean for manufacturers, distributors, suppliers, and what that means is essentially the more network vendors that we're able to attract to the UK market, the more they work with the network operators, whether they're the sort of macro network operators or the micro network operators that are emerging in the private sphere, the more opportunity there is to create open APIs, open interfaces, both on the software and the hardware side, to allow for a better, seamless, and quicker connections and less downtime. I think one of the biggest challenges manufacturers face is that they already have a lot of the equipment on their factory floor. They're not looking to make any changes to that in any sort of short-term time frames. They tend to fix and manipulate that information, manipulate their machines to actually last longer. And so what I'd like to see over the next 2 years is creating an ecosystem that pulls on different technology partners, that pulls on different sort of subsectors from manufacturing and supply base, to talk about how we create how do we create an ecosystem that relies on an open responsibility and an open management interface that can co-create solutions.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mo. We don't have any further questions. We answered the questions that we had on the Q&A panel. And I am extremely conscious that I'm running out of time. I would have loved to have asked everyone else in the panel the question of if we were to discuss again 1 or 2 years from now, what would we have, collectively would have wanted to have seen? But maybe we can follow this up in another way. If I can summarize very quickly, and with apologies for the organizers, for me, it has been absolutely fascinating. In particular, sort of from the beginning with Nina and Nikesh on highlighting the interest and the perception and the market that is moving, the interest from the manufacturers, the interest and the move in the last 12 months in particular on digital innovation investment, with Sophie, where the priority is for meeting the requirements. So again, not shoving down people's throats, but effectively exploring with them how the technology genuinely enables them to operate better, to operate more sustainably, to do the things that they can do now better, or to do new things that today are not possible because of the technology not being there. So that is fantastic. The 5G testbeds and trials has enabled a much better understanding. The 200 organization that Mo mentioned, there are about, at this moment, 9 different projects with a total funding from government of about 55 million pounds, plus much funding. So probably close to 80 to 100 million pounds, which is exploring specifically how the combination of the different technologies can deliver the digital innovation and digital transformation. But it is building understanding across, without offense, picking up again from Sophie. And in particular, I will close also with the lowering the most of the barriers that people mention at this stage are classical for cross-industry, cross-disciplinary work, which is that largely they are not necessarily technology about, but leading towards a better understanding and the spreading of the learning. So with this kind of very high-level summary, I would want to close the panel and thank you, thank all the panelists for all of the very, very frank, very direct opinions and thoughts, and thank you so much. And if we can kind of close and disappear in the ether, I will pass back to Linda for closing the panel. But thank you so much, and thank you to everyone that has been listening.
Thank you very much, Dritan, and all the panelists. It's been a very, very exciting discussion. So we are coming to the end of this webinar, but definitely it's not the end for industrial 5G. There are indeed more challenges to be tackled to enable widespread adoption, but definitely plenty of opportunities to accelerate digital transformation and help businesses become even more competitive. A reminder that you can access the webinar series on our YouTube channel. You can find the link to the playlist in the chat. And if you have enjoyed today's discussion and you want to stay in touch to find out more about our project, there is more coming up. There are more funding opportunities, but also future events. Please sign up to our newsletter. So, and to conclude the event, I just would like to say thank you to all our speakers today, Paul, Dritan for chairing the 2 panel discussions, and all of you who have who stayed with us listening to all the discussions. And we hope you have learned something more today. And from me and everyone at Digital Catapult, thank you for joining us, and we wish you a very good day. Goodbye.